Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi-ho, everybody, and welcome to D Plus Us, the show about all things Disney. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin, Griffy D-Pad, and with me, as always, is the wonderful, the amazing, the absolutely ecstatic to be on this episode, Mr. Mitch George. How are you doing?
How far do we have to get to a video before I can start swearing profusely?
You need to wait at least another 30 seconds. Do you want to just sit here and just start counting down the seconds?
I'm looking at my watch.
I will tell you when we hit a minute. In the meantime,
I can tell you too. I've been looking at my watch from the moment you said 30 seconds.
are you going to let me get through the intro first, or do you need this moment?
Give me a second.
Yep.
I only need give me 10 seconds.
We just hit a minute.
What a fucking dumpster fire this film is. Holy shit on a stick.
Oh, folks, I have been so excited for this episode for so long now. We are today.
Why did I agree to this?
Finally talking about the Snow White remake. Mitch, I saw this film in theaters.
I felt dumb spending 2 hours of my life watching it at home. Real dollars out of your real and gave it to a real person in this movie.
Okay, well, first off, this was back when I had the Regal movie pass.
But you paid for that and you used the pass towards this instead of an actual film.
Yeah, I did. And I'll tell you what, I had a great time because of how bad this movie is.
You're probably the only person in the goddamn theater.
Actually, that theater was weirdly full. That was kind
It
of...
shouldn't have been.
It was kind of before we knew just how bad this movie was. Beside the point. Of course, folks, we're hanging out today talking about the 2025 live-action Disney's Snow White, directed by Mark Webb, screenplay by Erin Christina Wilson, starring the fantastic and wonderful and could do no wrong Rachel Zegler, who I will not fault for this movie being bad. She is fantastic. As well as Gal Gadot. She sucks. Fuck her. I hate her. And the surprisingly cool Andrew Burnap. Never actually heard of this dude before. He's alright in this. I don't hate him. We got a bunch of other casts that I'll get to in just a second, though. But of course, let me hit you with a little bit more. Score for this done by Jeff Morrow. New music written by Pasek and Paul. You can tell. And some of the original songs pulled from this, I do need to shout them out. Larry Morey and Frank Churchill. Those original songs are classics, fantastic and wonderful for a reason. Runtime of 109 minutes, a budget of approximately 240 to 270 million, or a budget, and a box office of 205.6 million. This movie lost money. It was an absolute flop. We were so close, Mitch, to the death of Disney live-action remakes. And then Lilo and Stitch came out. Fuck it up.
I bought a Lilo and Stitch t-shirt at Old Navy today. It's real cute.
Fuck you.
It's just Stitch. He's on a surfboard.
Okay, that's
great.
actually great. That's fantastic. No,
I needed more light-colored t-shirts for the summer, and it was a white shirt just with the print.
I'll tell you what. As someone who wears primarily black in
Oh,
Florida...
I feel your pain. Yeah, you moved to Florida. You got to buy some not black shirts.
Oh, it feels wrong. It feels wrong, Mitch.
You're going to have to adjust, just like I had to adjust to not spending $100 on a 6-foot Lotso bear at Costco the other day.
You sent me that picture, and I was like, I will not be surprised if I get a picture of this in his living room.
Did I find that picture because I'm trying to scroll back to when I watched this film to give you my play-by-play of just how god-awful it was?
Oh, man, that was one of the greatest nights. I was just chilling with my family, because I was back home when you were watching this. And I was like, yes. The suffering has begun. This movie's god-awful, folks. Don't watch this movie. I'm just going to tell you right now. Do not waste your time watching this movie. It is not worth it in any way, shape, or form. This is arguably one of the worst movies I've watched all year. That said,
my first message to you is Snow White is not good, but Princess Problems is...
It is kind of a banger. The music with the exception of one song. I don't think it's bad.
I don't like Snow White's song.
See, I'm fine with it. It's not offensive to me when a lot of the
No, I just don't like it.
Like, that's my thing for me, is as long as the music isn't offensive to me with how bad the rest of this movie is, that's the bright spot.
Oh, before we get too far into this, can we just say fuck Peter Dinklage?
Any particular reason?
He's the reason we got CG dwarves.
I did not know that he was the reason for that.
So there was this whole thing going around where he was very opposed to presenting dwarfism in this film as, you know, a thing. And instead of doing that with dwarf actors, they just did it all in CG and only had one actor who is a dwarf voice any of the 7 dwarves.
The voices are good. I will give them that is one of the weird things about this movie, is that it's weirdly well cast, with the exception of Gal Gadot. Like Andrew Burnap, I do think he does a good job with what he's given, and I love the voices that they have for the dwarves and for the magic mirror, and then like Anso Kabia as the huntsman, I think is fantastic. Just to run through the names really quickly, you got Jeremy Smith as Doc, Martin Kleba as Grumpy, George Salazar as Happy, Titus Burgess as Bashful, Andrew, oh god, Grotilishin. I'm hoping I'm getting that right. I am so sorry if I didn't. As Sleepy, Jason Kravitz as Sneezy, and Andrew Barth Feldman as Dopey. Of course, these are just the voice and facial motion capture for these characters. They're actually puppeteered by other people. And then we also have Patrick Page, who is the voice for the Magic Mirror. You can see the pieces, right, man? Like, you can see the pieces of this movie where it was like, oh, interesting idea. Oh, interesting idea. But there's just something about the final execution of this that's just so rough.
Mitch, from 2 weeks ago. This film is trying to be too many things all at once and gets story beat they're trying to pass off as plot to little success. It is very poorly written, acted, choreographed, and is just bad. Also, the ugly queen looks real bad in CG.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's bad acted. I think it's mostly on the writing on this one.
It's mostly on the writing. But the thing is, it's not even that it's on the writing. It's that they tried too hard to stick to the original film in certain aspects and add in other, like it felt like 2 different movies because they're trying to stay too close to the original source material, where this is where Peter Dinklage was right. They were very, forward and progressive about casting not a woman of Latin descent as Snow White. But then you're telling the story of 7 dwarves who go and dig for gems and live mostly in a cave or a shack in the woods, right?
Which is funny because I've always been one of my favorite living situations in any Disney movie has always been the dwarves' house, because it kind of rocks.
It does, but when you think of the connotations of that, of these dwarves were shunned by society, forced out, and then had.
Oh, that was that, none of that shit was in the original. That was entirely new.
Oh no, I know, but it's just like
that was a choice. That was a choice they made. Yeah, a lot of this movie I think really struggles, but I think there's those tiny little bits in there that you can kind of see what this movie could have been, that really makes the bad parts worse. Like the actual production design of this movie, I actually really like the way that they use color, especially in this. I think is fantastic. Having
it is, but the over reliance on CG sound stages takes away from it.
See,
you have this one.
I don't think it does. I think the way that they have the color exist. The evil queen literally drains all of the color out of the world, and then except for Snow White, and then it all comes back. I think that's such a unique and fascinating thing that they did with at a production design level that looks and feels fantastic, paired with a god-awful story that makes you not care, so that seeing that does not hit.
there are times where that, like, I totally missed on that because I was already having a terrible time. Because there's a scene where they're in the, I think it's before she gets kissed to wake up, which again feels like a trope left in the 50s that should have stayed there.
Yeah, but it's also
where Jonathan shows up and it's like he's very clearly standing on a soundstage with some foliage at his feet, and everything outside of 2 feet of him is CG. Like everything.
See, even then, I'm like, I recognize it's CG. It does not look as bad though as some of the other moments in this movie.
You'll watch this movie in 3 to 4 years and be like, "Oh, that is shit."
Mind you, I watched this movie on a theater screen. You see everything on that shit.
It's real bad.
It's not that bad in that particular scene. Everything,
I thought it was.
everything in the Queen's Castle is horrible. Every bit of that is terrible. It's also, it feels less. It feels like it was like that was the intentional though, in a way for a lot of it. And it's like I get why we use sound stages, right? Like just from a production and like filming standpoint, it is significantly cheaper. It makes sense. I am used to that. I am accepting of that because that's just where we are.
But find ways to blend your backgrounds to your actors and make it not so like. I wouldn't have been surprised if we had seen like wires out of some of these.
I honestly,
like
I would argue that the only reason you see it as much as you see it is because of the fact that you have the dwarves there, and they.
I think that's definitely part of it. They blend and he doesn't.
Mm-hmm. And like, because like the dwarves, like just honestly, outside of the scene where they're dancing with whistle while you work, they don't look good. They are bad. Actually, the other exception I would give is in the high ho scene. That scene actually did get a smile out of me. That was still fun, but that is heavily nostalgia. Me loving that song and loving that original sequence in the original movie. Like the dwarf is just bad. Gal Gadot sucks. Her song is like genuinely had me laughing my ass off with how bad it was.
Yeah, and like the thing that bothers me too, I want to go back to the dwarf thing for a second because you had other members of the dwarf community come out and say, like, he directly cost us jobs because of the way that he was outspoken and so negative about this. We're cautious and didn't want to cast dwarf actors. They cast one dwarf actor, Martin Kleba, and even then, he wasn't the stand-in for his own character. Like, you had other actors on set, other dwarf actors or other dwarf performers. Just what the hell? Like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, it is rough to say the least. I think this is one of those films where, you know, bits and pieces of this, where it's like you can tell that they either wanted to go for a full brand new thing with this, right? And like when they announced this back in 2022. That was the vibe they were giving them. This is going to be totally different. And I was very excited to see that.
It could have been something good.
And then there was the backlash to that, right? Like, I think that after that backlash, a lot of it adjusted. I really do think that. There was a lot of arguments against it. There was like, oh, we're gonna go overly woke with this film. I don't know if we were actually we've been woke as a term for a while now. Like this is the point where it was like fucking the Daily fucking Wire announced an adaptation of Snow White to basically just be like, fuck this film.
I mean, the other thing that's just crazy about this is like
David called this remake insulting. And like,
I mean, the other thing, like, you couldn't have the two leads do press together.
We will get to that.
Because you had
we will get to that. That is a bigger point.
Okay.
That is a significantly bigger point that requires its own thing.
Yeah, we got to dig into that one.
But it's like, I really do feel like they had an idea for this film. They were working on it, and then about partway through, they had to change it because people got angry.
Yeah,
like that is the only way I can think of that any of this happened. This does not feel like this is the film that we wanted to make. This very much feels like this is a film that we had to make because of a bunch of different circumstances. One such circumstance being Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. Like, yeah, let's get into it. Like, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, two very different sides right now of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Like,
you know what else is that if Disney hadn't made this movie in 9 years, Disney's version of Snow White would have entered the public domain.
Yeah.
1934 was when the original film came out. So 2034, this version of the character would have entered the public domain without them creating a new version of the character in film.
That version of the character does still become public domain. The animated version of that character still becomes public domain.
Does it? If this is a direct adaptation of the animated character?
Yep, still does.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
trust me, I would love to say it's public domain theory, but Disney has mastered shit when it comes to pushing public domain. But it's like Mickey Mouse right now, for instance, right? Where it's like, yeah, the Steamboat Willie version of him is public domain, but the modern version of Mickey Mouse is not. So right. There's a balance there. But no, yeah, let's talk about Zegler and Gadot. Right, where it's like Rachel Zegler. My props are going to entirely go to Rachel Zegler for this. I have made it very clear where I stand on this stuff, where it is fuck Israel and what
she is a phenomenal performer and does the best she can with what she's given.
I love that she is she does that always.
But also the third act, she just herself. Again, the writing, like the third act. They're trying to beat the queen on good vibes.
I'm stepping away from the acting for a second here, Mitch. We're stepping away from it. Mitch, we got to step away from that for a second, please. We're talking about something incredibly bigger than just this movie.
I know, which is probably why I shouldn't have opened this beverage.
Yes. Like, I think it's important to talk about this, especially just with what Israel is doing and where that has pulled into, especially since this movie came out, right? Like, a lot has happened since March. But with Disney trying to flip this and put it all on Rachel Zegler, when it's just not the case. Like, we've known for a while Gal Gadot very much being in the wrong on a lot of this, and it's something I think that most people could look at and be like, "Hey, yo, I see this. What the fuck?" But
I'm sure some of it is just a product of, where you are born and the belief system that is imposed upon you at a certain age. And some people can see through that and some people can't. And it's unfortunate that you have folks on two sides of a conflict that, one side is clearly in the wrong. And
it's a shocking twist that the people just, and I'm talking about bigger than just Israel in this statement, but it's shocking by the people just who were totally fine dropping bombs out of nowhere. That is wrong. That is not hard to say that is wrong.
Are you also not surprised that there was a planned boycott of this film from U.S. Republicans after Rachel Zegler came out and very publicly said, fuck Donald Trump and anyone that voted for him after the November election?
The thing. The Republicans keep trying to do boycotts, but they can't
get
their shit together in that way. Yeah, this was so fascinating watching this, like, as things had gone, and watching Disney try to spin this and really throw a lot of that hate at Rachel Zegler. I will not be surprised if she never works with them again. Like,
we said the same thing about Scarlett Johansson. I think Disney has enough money.
Well, no, I don't think it's the Disney story. I think it's on her. Like, she is.
The thing is,
like, I think will not be surprised she never worked with them because Disney fucked her over.
I agree. Like, I can see that being one stance to take on this, but I can also see the stance of, and this is probably a larger conversation that we need to have, of the, what's the word? Homogenization of Hollywood, right? There are 4, maybe 5 major studios. So if she boycotts one, you get Bobby Iger up on the phone calling Universal. Be like, yo, she's hard to work with. Don't hire her for anything. And then her career's over, right? So I think they're, especially for someone as young as she is.
She's also not working in movies right now. She's working on stage stuff right now.
That's also very true.
where also people are angry about her current performance, her current show again, because people suck. But that is more theater snobs being theater snobs than this case of just people being shit. Like, I genuinely will not be surprised if she never wants to work with Disney again. And Rachel,
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if she left Hollywood and just became an activist and a stage actor.
I would honestly love that for her. She is kind of at a point where really she does what she wants, and I respect the fuck out of it.
I do, but she's also she's so young that I worry what the effect, like probably another conversation to have. The effect of social media and social media activity on the mind of a young 24-year-old woman who is being issued death threats from groups across the entire globe, all because she acted in a film and said, fuck bad people doing bad things.
Oh, I mean, it's going to hit.
Neither of those statements are incorrect to make for anybody. And the amount of hate and vitriol she's now had to deal with because of it, I very much worry for her mental health.
Oh, absolutely. Also, though, like, let's take a look at her first 3 movies. Her first movie ever she did was West Side Story, which she got hate for. Then there was Shazam.
And she was the best part of that. She was the best part of that movie by a mile.
Oh, it's going to stand for these first 2 as well. Then there's Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which she got hate for.
I watched the first 10 minutes of that and turned it off.
And then there was The Hunger Games: Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which guess what, bitch?
Not a very friendly fandom there.
She got hate for. I don't know shit about Y2K or Spellbound.
So Y2K was an interesting one where that was sort of like a comedy film where there was when Y2K hit, and I know you're but everyone assumed the Y2K hit, the internet and everything was going to explode and all the computers were going to turn off.
I know
it was
like
insane.
That movie's like a slasher horror film, right?
It's like it's a slasher comedy film where, like, when all the computers shut off, one of them turns back on, robot or something. I was curious about it, but I never got around to seeing it. I still do want to see it when it's stream somewhere convenient.
Yeah. Spellbound, on the other hand, has an entirely separate issue from her, which is John Lasseter. But so I never actually sat down and watched Spellbound.
John Lasseter's involved with this?
Yeah, that was the film company he went to after leaving for getting kicked out of Pixar.
Yeah, but I mean, if he wasn't directly involved with the film, shit. Because I've been looking at this, I'm like, oh damn, it's got a score from Alan Menken and stars Rachel Zegler, John Lithgow, Nathan Lane, D. Bradley Baker, Nicole Kidman, Javier Bardem, John Ratzenberger.
I mean, it's
what
a
the hell is this movie?
This, right, where a lot of these problems where it is one individual person, a lot more people work on this project. And yeah. I do think that is something we do have to consider. But ultimately, you fall where you fall, and my falling on that one was, I'm good.
Oh yeah, John Lasseter. Yeah, I'm not watching this.
Bringing it back into the movie here, it's like, yeah, I get it. Trust me, this was a perfect example of what can go wrong with a film did go wrong. In terms of corporate Disney bullshit.
She's also just had the worst luck in picking roles. Like, there wasn't a single film there other than Y2K that didn't have some issue.
Are you kidding me? I look at that and I'm like, because this is very much how she's, at least her style when it comes to picking movies. That shit makes me money. I'm gonna take that shit. She has made so much off of those roles, right? Like, she very much said with Shazam, right? Where she's like, I don't give a shit. I'm just here for the paycheck. Like, I respect the fuck out of her decisions on this, because I'm like, yeah, get that bag and move on.
Okay, so Y2K stars Jaden Martell, who was one of the kids in It, Rachel Zegler, Julian Dennison, who you would know from Deadpool 2 as the kid with the fire fist or whatever his name was.
Oh yeah. And
Fred Durst as Fred Durst in a film about the year Y2K.
Okay, maybe I should watch this movie.
So I want to watch this movie.
Yeah, that might be a good thing. There's our next episode of not
I'm just gonna see if it's available to stream anywhere.
Bringing it back, I want to talk about music in this one. You mentioned it, but yeah, "Waiting on a Wish" is Rachel Zegler's main song for this.
I do like that they replaced "Someday My Prince Will Come" with this.
I do
because
think
I
this is
do
the best
not
song in the movie.
see. Princess Problems was just fun, and it gave me those vibes of like other films that these or people have done that I forget the name of.
So the reason for me, honestly, that "Waiting on a Wish" I think is the best song in this is because it is the only song that is just Rachel Zegler.
That's entirely fair because she's got pipes.
Like you look at some of these other ones, and it's like "Hi Ho" is fun. It's a fun
Problematic
homage to the original, but it's not the original.
No.
"All Is Fair," Gal Gadot's song, is hilariously bad.
It's no good.
It is easily the worst part of this entire movie.
He's very no good.
"Whistle While You Work," I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's great.
It doesn't hold up. Like it felt out of place in this film with the story they were trying to tell. Of like, yeah, female empowerment, but also let's get back to the kitchen and clean. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, "Whistle While You Work" feels like it's here because it has to be.
It's here because it's a Snow White film, and you had to have at least one of those.
"Princess Problems," yeah, it's catchy and fun.
It's a bop. No.
Looking at some of these, the "Silly Song," honestly don't remember it. "A Hand Beats a Hand," kind of their romance song moment. It was fine.
Terrible.
I didn't love it.
It was forced. There didn't need to be a romance.
I am talking like musical standpoint,
I know,
song.
but it's
From
hard
a
to
scene
take the
standpoint,
song
it's
out
god
of the
awful.
plot. Yeah.
Like again, I still stand by that. If from song point, god awful. Musical standpoint, it's fine. Got a couple of reprises, and then the one I haven't talked about yet is both the beginning and ending songs. "Good Things Grow," which
is so dumb. No.
It's
We're
dumb?
not going. They tried to win
Okay,
against
can I
an
finish
evil
my
queen
music
with
shit?
a bunch
no,
of shit.
stop. I'm
With a
finishing my
song.
music shit. Let me finish the music shit first. Then you can get angry.
I'm already angry.
This song genuinely upset me because I didn't want this song to be fucking catchy. I was like, God damn you being catchy. This is not a good song. It is bad lyricism. But I'm like, fuck, this beat is good. But then there's the finale version, which is genuinely horrible. And now, Mitch, go ahead.
Why were they all in white?
Because she's Snow White.
That's so stupid.
Did you not put that together?
No. Stupid.
I'm sorry, compared to the rest of this movie, is it more or less stupid?
I sent you a message that you did not acknowledge, and I need you to acknowledge it now. This was almost as bad as Dragon Ball Evolution. Like,
nothing is ever going to come anywhere close to how bad that movie is. This movie's bad. It is not that bad.
the end sequence was cute.
For Dragon Ball or for this?
No, for this. Like the animation, like the end credit title.
Oh yeah, the end credit
sequence animation.
was great.
And it was the best part of the movie. You don't know why?
Because the movie was over?
Because the movie was over. And I sat through the credits, and for some reason they thanked Edgar Wright, and I don't know. I want to know why. I don't know why, but I want to know why.
I mean, I think he was working
Maybe he was
on
a
it
consulting producer at some point, or maybe he did a story treatment somewhere, but then you would think it would be in story or producer, not end credit thanks from the producers to Edgar Wright. Maybe he tried to help them fix this train wreck of a dumpster fire.
Maybe.
So I had a weird couple days. Right? Because I'm watching this, I'm texting you. It's like midnight my time. I mean, our time, because time zones aren't as much of an issue anymore. It's like midnight. I'm texting you, thank God this movie's over. I then send you a text at 8:30 the following morning. I am very tired. I was late for a meeting. I blame Gal Gadot. The next day, so within a 48-hour period, I watched this and Mufasa. I think it actually made Mufasa a better movie, which we'll talk about at some point.
We'll talk about Mufasa at some point, but I actually like Mufasa.
It wasn't bad. I was surprised, but we'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so many of this movie's issues is like, we could honestly talk about this movie for another 30 minutes and then just do the same shit.
This movie should have been canceled, not Batgirl.
I mean, agreed, but entirely different companies.
I know, but I just wanted this to never see the light of day, and I wanted to see Batgirl.
Fair. I still wish we had seen Batgirl. Even aside from this, just because I love Batgirl. Yeah, this is a movie that's just... I think it's the perfect example of why we are so frustrated with Disney live-action remakes. Like, you fall into a weird place when you have to remake a movie where you want to be respectful of the original but do your own thing. And we talked about this a little bit with Lilo and Stitch, with what is the right balance to hit. And I think this one decided to say, what if we hit 100% on both and broke the computer in the process? That's not how the sliders work.
No, like they tried to make a film that was evocative of the original but told its own story, and they failed at both things. Like, well, the way they evoked the original film was in poor taste and wasn't very well handled, and it clashed entirely with the story that they tried to tell that was new and fresh for this film. Tell one story or the other. You're never going to be able to tell both, because it was produced in 1937, and the other one never should have been produced.
Yeah, this was one of those, right, where it was like, okay, that's an interesting choice to do a remake of. I actually, like, when it comes to these movies, I will happily be excited if we're going to go back to those significantly older movies, especially something like Snow White, and put a modern twist on them. Because I think that a lot of them can do very well with that. We saw that already with Cinderella. And it's one that no one ever talks about, but I will always give a shout out to how they've updated Lady and the Tramp, which
I never watched.
No one watched it because it was a Disney Plus exclusive at the beginning of Disney Plus.
That was a launch title,
yeah.
And everyone wanted to watch Mandalorian because of Star Wars.
Like, you can update these in such a way that works. We've seen that. Aladdin does a great job of it. Beauty and the Beast does a great job with it. Freaking
to a point.
Trying to think if there's any other ones that did a good job with it, but also like most of it.
I was just going to try to find the collection on Disney Plus, which I don't know why I didn't just search for it. But
even other ones like Maleficent or Cruella de Vil, right? Take a unique spin.
Tell an original story.
Yeah, on the original source material. You could have done something like that, and instead you tried to have your cake and eat it too. And look, I think that is where this movie fails.
Like, they got to stop going back to the 30s and 40s. I get it. They're Walt classics. They're Walt originals. Snow White didn't work. Pinocchio didn't work. Dumbo didn't work. If they announce a remake of Fantasia or Bambi, I am marching myself down to Burbank, California to tell Bob Iger to his face to just stop.
I wouldn't be surprised on Bambi. How the hell would you remake Fantasia? There's no through line.
There isn't, but Disney will find a way to fuck it up. Just
they already did with Fantasia. It's called Fantasia.
They did 2000. Fantasia 2000.
And it's actually
which also wasn't very good. I didn't like it.
It's literally just Fantasia again.
Like, if you look through the decades, so I mentioned all the ones from the 30s, they did not work. You look at the 50s to the 70s, Cinderella worked. Alice, I argue, did not. Peter Pan definitely didn't.
I would argue Alice
Lady and the Tramp,
did, but we just
mixed.
Didn't like it. Hey, look, you get a sequel
101 Dalmatians, super cute. Really glad they did that, but that was also like 20 years ago. Jungle Book.
We got Cruella.
Jungle Book, meh.
We need to do a Cruella episode. We talk about that movie too often.
I'm down. It's a great movie. And then you get to the 80s, 90s. You've got The Little Mermaid, which I thought was great, but a lot of people didn't.
Also, a lot of those people were racist fucks.
Well, yeah. Beauty and the Beast, again, mixed. Aladdin, I thought was great, apart from Jasmine's song, which I really didn't vibe with.
Which you're wrong about.
Lion King, meh. If they ever try to do Pocahontas, they're going to get into a lot of trouble real quick.
They know better.
Do they, though? They did Mulan.
Yeah, but...
Try to finish that sentence.
Mulan, they went for an entirely different angle with it.
And it didn't work.
There is no acceptable angle they could go at a Pocahontas remake with.
2000s remakes, we've got Lilo and Stitch, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're into modern Walt Disney animation, which we're going to get Moana in live action. Friggin' Tangled.
I don't want a Tangled live action.
Well, they shelved the Tangled one after the reaction to Snow White, which I think is the wrong story of Tangled is a lot easier to adapt in live action because it's a modern tale than something like Pocahontas.
Well, again, I think it comes down to what is your style of live action remake you want to make. If you're
Sure.
going one for one, or are you going for update? That's why I go back to the OGs, go back to the 30s and 40s, because I think that those are the more interesting stories to remake in a modern fashion. Right? Like,
but they tried multiple times and failed, and thought Snow White was going to be the one that hits.
Again, I think they need to do the way to do this isn't the way that they are currently doing it. The way to do this is to go, okay, we are taking that shit and we are making something new. We are not.
But they did that.
We are not doing it.
They did that.
No, they didn't.
They tried to do something new with Dumbo, and it did not work. They tried to be faithful to the original with Pinocchio, and it did not work. They tried to blend the two styles with Snow White, and it didn't work. Stop trying at this point.
Dumbo worked. I think Dumbo worked.
I did not. I disagree with you
I
there.
think, and Dumbo is one of the only ones that was actively profitable.
Did it? Did it make money? Shit, that's surprising.
I think it did.
We're both going to try to find out.
Look,
I feel like it did because it came out
in 2019.
It came out at a good time of year. Like it came out in.
Yeah, that
it came out
movie
in
made
March.
$353.3 million.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like,
I'm surprised it only cost them 170 to make with a cast like
Well, I
Colin
can
Farrell,
tell you-
Michael
well,
Keaton,
also-
Danny DeVito.
so here's the other wrinkle with Dumbo, and it's Tim Burton. Like that is
He's
the
a draw.
That is the draw, but also that I would also it has pros and cons.
It's the reason I didn't like either of the Alice films or the newer Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
And it's like, wait, are we talking? Which Charlie are we talking about?
The Johnny Depp one.
Okay, I was gonna say if you're coming for like the early 2000s ones, we're gonna have issues.
No, that's
But-
that's technically Willy Wonka on the Chocolate Factory. And there wasn't the 2000s. That was like the 80s.
Well, there was an 80s one and there was like a 2000s one. There's two. In
Was it?
Yes, because there's the one you grew up on, and then there's the one I grew up on.
I grew up on the one with Gene Wilder.
Maybe we did grow up on the same one. Charlie's
We're
Chocolate
talking about the
Factory
same
is
movie.
its own shit.
We're talking about the same movie, right?
Then there's Wonka.
Okay, so yeah, there's the 19th, that's novelization films. There was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which came out in the 70s, directed by Mel Stewart. That's the one I grew up on. The one you're talking about from the early
Charlie
2000s which was the Tim Burton film with Johnny Depp that was terrible.
That is the one I grew up on.
And it's awful.
It is not.
It's so, oh my God, it's so bad.
It is not. It is. I will stand by that one. But that's also, again, rose-colored glasses. Saw that. Watched that a lot of
Johnny
times.
Depp,